Hey everybody, we're the Teachers for Peace, and we're here to do a little discussion on Rafa Skeeth and his book. We are all students, EDM 310 students at the University of South Alabama. And before we start, we're just going to go around the table and introduce ourselves. I'm Juanita Fincher.
I'm Ornetta Hurd.
I'm Jessica Mose.
And I'm Yolette Batiste.
And in this book, the name of the book is Teach Like Your Hair is on Fire, Lighting Their Fires. It is about raising extraordinary children. Ralph was a teacher at Horton Elementary School in Los Angeles, California. He taught there for 24 years as an elementary student.
For all who make a difference, Rafa's credentials include President of the Medal of Arts, American Teacher Award, Oprah Use Your Life Award, just to name a few.
Our outline will cover the pregame, the ninth inning, and postgame. Our overview, the story takes place at a ballpark where Raph takes his students to see the game, the Dodgers, and Raph actually comes across these tickets from a friend of his who knows he's a diehard Dodgers fan. He's allotted 6 tickets for the season, and he's able to take 5 students, including himself, per game to one of their games. Ralph incorporates life lessons into his stories while they are at the ball game, and Ralph actually enjoys watching the children watching the game and thinking about their futures.
And the first part, pregame, is called Out of the Ordinary, and he introduces a really special character. His name is Sammy. Sammy, in the beginning, he's just not very popular. He's not very hygienic. He interrupts during class, and Ralph takes it upon himself to become friends with Sammy. Eventually, he sees the progress in Sammy. He has a passion for history, he loves math, and he joins a lot of extracurriculars, and they just have a good friendship. And in the beginning, Sammy, and in this pregame, he begins by introducing Sammy, and although Sammy can't go to the game, he tells Ralph that his mother's going to pick him up at 5:30, so he decides to stay at the school.
Another part of the pre-game is raising extraordinary kids in a mixed up, muddled up, shook up world. For example, the tour guide. When they first came to the stadium, the tour guide was a little uninterested. Her attitude was a little off, and she just really didn't feel like guiding another group of kids around, even though it was her job. She was kind of tired. So everybody kind of noticed, how tired she was and how she just really wasn't interested. But as she started going around and doing the tour and everything, the kids just seemed so interested in everything that was going on. They knew about Henry Fonda. They knew about the 12 Angry Men, the Grapes of Wrath. And she was just really surprised about it and taken back. So it lightened her mood. It made her feel better. She enjoyed what she was doing. She was kind of unbelieved about the kids, knowing what she was talking about. So it was very interesting for her also. The central theme is introduced, and it's called These Kids Weren't Born Extraordinary, They Became That Way.
A quote from the book: I fear something for all the children I have blessed to know, and it's not drugs or gangs. I fear that my children will be mediocre, that they won't live up to the tremendous promise that each of them possesses. I don't want my children to be mediocre, because I know they are capable of more. So let the polishing begin. Play ball!
The ninth inning, titled The Long Run. Dodgers losing. Rafa focuses on the fact that the teaching of character has almost disappeared. The kids watched the Cardinals, and I watched the kids. The little ones were worried that the visiting team was about to increase its lead. I was worried about the students' future. Which basically says it's our responsibility as facilitators, us, to not just make great students, but to make thoughtful and honorable people.
That's very pretty. Another big idea was delayed gratification coming down off of that. Ralph introduces the marshmallow experiment. And basically what this is they got a lot of little kids together and they were going to see if little kids had delayed gratification. And what they did is they put one marshmallow in front of each little kid, and they told the kid that in 20 minutes, when a man would return, they could either eat the marshmallow now or they could have two when the man returned. Either way, after they conducted all these experiments, they did a follow-up about 14 to 15 years later, and the students that did display delayed gratification had higher level intelligence, higher emotional stability, more success and happiness later in life. And so the wisdom of controlling his impulses and waiting for a greater reward.
Finish what you started is the next big idea. Don't quit. He tries to give an example saying, stay to the end of the game. And this is an example of delayed gratification and process and experience. Living in the U.S. is kind of fast-paced. We got fast food. Everything is really quick. It's what people are used to, you know. So as we're going to compare it to like a game of Monopoly. We're not trying to get to the end and see who won. It's all about the process, and that's basically what we're trying to teach the students, that it's about the process and it's not about getting to the end. It's about enjoying what you're doing and getting through it. Yes, the experience, basically. So
Another example Raphael used was every year he did a Shakespeare play. This Shakespeare play took a whole year. It was done at the end of the year, and it took 50,000 hours. Yes, 50,000 hours. It was 50,000 hours of rehearsing, instruments, practicing at home. And it was all of the underlying point was about the process and the action and watching each other grow and progress throughout the year.
Quote by Ralph: "If we adults can postpone our gratification and teach the children to delay theirs, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow will no longer be merely a fairy tale."
Post-game, throwing starfish. Throwing starfish is about a man who's walking on the beach and there are hundreds of starfish on the shore. So the man begins to pick up every starfish that he walks by and throws it back in the sea. This little boy comes up to the man and asks him, "Why are you throwing these starfish in the sea?" He was like, "They're dying. I'm trying to save these creatures." And the little boy says, "Were you not going to save them all?" And the man replies, "That is true, but at least I can save this one."
Post-game, another lesson Ralph mentions, keeping promises. Basically, his students turn in a paper, and it's supposed to be due back the Tuesday after they get back from their 3-day holiday. Ralph, before they left for the game, forgot the papers, and he had to return to the school. So when Ralph runs back to the school, he gets the papers to grade, and that's where he encounters Sammy, who has been there waiting for the past 6 hours. He was supposed to be picked up by his mother, and he was still there when Ralph got there to pick up the papers.
that's sad.
Yeah, that is.
It really is sad.
Well, I have a little quote from one of Raphael's previous students, which is Joanne, and she said she was provoked to think, and she was challenged to stay away from the ordinary, and she did. So we learned a great lesson here. You know.
We did. And if you're wondering what happened to Sammy, he ended up, his mother didn't end up picking him up that day. And so it was crazy that, in coincidence, that Raph went back to the school to get those papers because he found Sammy there. And what Sammy was doing for the last 6 hours was reading about World War II. So, of course, Raph takes him home, and Sammy asks Raph at the very end of the book, he says, "Can you take me to the public library since we don't have school on Monday?" And he said, "Yeah, but why don't you go to the one near your house?" And he's like, "Well, I've read everything there, and the public library has more information." So as Raph was smiling, he said, "There's another starfish. That's his starfish." And so in conclusion, if you want to know more, you're going to have to read the book. It's Raph and Skeeth Lighting Their Fires, and it's Raising Extraordinary Children. This is Teach Like Your Hair is on Fire. Another, and we're the Teachers of Peace again. And so I'm going to reintroduce myself. I'm Juanita Fincher.
And we're Netta Hurd.
I'm Jessica Mose.
And I'm Yolette Batiste.
And Rafa Skeeth also does a couple more books if you want to look into that too. There Are No Shortcuts, The Methods of Madness of Room 56, and Teach Like Your Hair is on Fire. Thank you for watching. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time.